You know that kid who always seemed older than everyone else in the room? The one who never really acted their age? Who made adult jokes that landed a little too well? Who knew how to read a situation before anyone else did? Who seemed unbothered by things that sent other kids into tears? That wasn't maturity. It was survival dressed up in maturity's clothing. And the psychology behind it is something most people never fully understand, even the people who lived it. Let's start with what actually happens when a child is forced to grow up too fast. Because it's not just about being responsible early or having a tough childhood. It's about the fundamental rewiring of a developing brain during the exact window when it's most vulnerable to being rewired. Child development researchers call this process parentification, and it comes in two forms. Instrumental parentification, where a child takes on physical adult responsibilities like cooking meals, raising siblings, managing the household. And the other is emotional parentification, which is quieter, harder to see, and in many ways more damaging. That's where the child becomes the emotional caretaker of the adults around them. The one who reads the room, who absorbs tension before it becomes an explosion, who learns to manage other people's feelings before they ever learn to manage their own. Here's what that looks like. It's a 7-year-old monitoring their parents' mood the second they hear the front door open before a single word is spoken. That child has already scanned for danger. Footsteps too heavy? Silence lasting a beat too long? Door closed with just a little too much force? They've already adjusted. Already made themselves smaller, or warmer, or invisible, depending on what the moment requires. That's not childhood. That's a job, and it's a job they never applied for. Dr. Gregory Yerkovic found that these kids develop a compressed developmental timeline. They skip stages, not because they're gifted, but because their environment demanded it. Childhood is all about being curious without consequence, making mistakes in a safe container, testing boundaries with room to fail. For them, all of it is quietly pushed aside in favor of something more urgent. Keeping the peace, keeping everyone else okay. And their brain adapts because that's what brains do. These kids become almost supernaturally good at reading people. Micro-expressions, shifts in tone, changes in posture, signals most adults completely miss. This isn't a skill they developed out of curiosity. They developed it because accurately predicting what was coming next wasn't just useful. It was necessary. Researchers call this hypervigilant attunement. People describe them as highly intuitive. What they actually are is highly trained. But that same hypervigilance makes it nearly impossible to relax. Their nervous system doesn't really have a resting state. It has two modes, scanning and recovering from scanning. Put them in a genuinely peaceful situation and something strange happens. They get uncomfortable. Because peace, in their early experience, was never just peace. It was the silence before something broke. Then there's identity. When a child spends their developmental years focused entirely on what everyone else needs, they lose track of what they actually are. Ask adults who grew up too fast what they'd do with a completely free Saturday and watch them pause. Not indecision, just a question that still feels foreign. And love. They pour themselves into relationships completely while quietly waiting for it to fall apart. Because love in their experience came with conditions. And somewhere deep in their nervous system, the belief got wired in that if they ever stopped being useful, the connection would dissolve. But here's what's also true. The same experiences that created these wounds created something else. Empathy that cannot be manufactured. Resilience that's real and earned. The capacity to sit with someone in pain without flinching, because they had extensive early training in exactly that. And somewhere in adulthood, many of them find their way back to themselves. Learning that needs are not weaknesses. That taking up space isn't something to apologize for. The child who grew up too fast didn't fail their childhood. Their childhood failed them. And growing something real from the middle of that, that's one of the harder things a person can do. If this resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe. See you next video!